Hey guys, welcome to Genoa. Tucked along Italy's northwestern coast where the mountains practically crash into the ocean. And the streets feel like a medieval maze built by someone with a personal vendetta against straight lines. In just one day, we'll cover grand piazzas, cathedrals, palaces, and yes, even the humble house of Christopher Columbus. Its history, architecture, and a lot of uphill cardio, all squeezed into the one day. So, come and join me as we explore Genoa. So we've arrived, guys. Welcome to Genoa. First things first, let's dump these bags off at the Airbnb and then head for our first attraction.
It's about 8 o'clock in the morning and we're heading out, and our first stop today is Piazza De Ferrari, which is the main square of Genoa. We're going to check out the fountain and the cathedral nearby, and that's going to be the start of our tour today. We're going to pack in as much as we possibly can. We've only got the day to do it, so let's make the most of it.
Piazza De Ferrari has been the heart of Genoa for over a century, framed by 19th and early 20th century architecture, from the stock exchange to the opera house. At its centre, the fountain adds a sense of rhythm to the space, surrounded by movement but anchored in history. It's a natural meeting point of Genoa, then and now. The fountain was added in 1936 with a gravity-fed system and a bronze basin that's still original. These days it's had a modern upgrade with LED lights that make it glow by night and occasionally change colour for events or holidays. I step into the entrance square of the Lisetta Carmi Museum. I'm not going into the museum, I'm just checking out the square. It's quiet, almost formal, with tall columns lining the sides. The space feels designed to slow you down and take a look and take it all in. At the main entrance, there's a massive studded door that looks like it hasn't moved in about 100 years. It's fitting, really. Lisetta Carmi was a photographer who captured people that others overlooked, outsiders, workers, lives in transition, and now her name sits on a building that feels calm, strong, and built to last. Next, we're moving on to the Cathedral of San Lorenzo, which is Genoa's oldest church, dating back to the 12th century. You don't take in this cathedral all at once. It kind of reveals itself as you look. The scale, the layers, the mix of styles, it's a lot. Then you get to the front. Striped marble, carved lions at the steps, arches that feel like they're stacked on top of one another. It's bold and it's definitely not quiet or understated. And when you get close to it all, it's all in the details. Tiny tiles, smooth columns, patterns you could miss if you weren't paying attention. As I mentioned earlier, San Lorenzo has been Genoa's cathedral since the 12th century. Built, rebuilt, and expanded over hundreds of years. You can feel that mix the moment you step inside. Romanesque bones, Gothic touches, and centuries of history layered into every stone arch. One of the side altars catches the light. A large gold crucifix at the centre. Carved angels surround it. Candles flicker below, like the whole scene is quietly alive, even in the stillness. Above the main altar, the dome opens up, bright, detailed and full of movement. Painted figures curved with the architecture, like the story is circling overhead. Light spills in from the high windows, pulling your attention upwards, whether you meant to look that way or not.
Now we're heading off to Via Garibaldi, a street that is famous for its Renaissance and Baroque style palaces, many of which are UNESCO listed.
Via Garibaldi was once the street of Genoa's elite, built in the 16th century as a showcase of power and wealth. Lined with palaces from top to bottom, it was part of the Rolli system, where noble families were chosen to host visiting dignitaries. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site and still feels like a walk through a very polished history book. The ceilings in these palace entrances are something else. You look up expecting plain stone, and instead you get an entire scene painted above your head. Mythological figures, clouds, gold trim, full of colour. These were designed to impress you before you even reach the staircase. It's all about setting the tone. It's a statement, and the ceilings say it loudest, without anyone needing to say a word. Today, many of these palaces have new lives. Some, like Palazzo Rosso and Palazzo Bianco, are now public art galleries, part of Genoa's museum network, filled with paintings, sculptures and period rooms. Others house city offices or banks, still holding on to that air of importance. And a few are just quietly tucked behind closed doors, private, a little mysterious and still very much part of the street's original charm. Palazzo del Governo, once a noble residence, now houses the Prefecture of Genoa. It's part of the Rolli Palaces, built to impress visiting dignitaries, and still carries that quiet authority with its elegant façade and formal symmetry. The city gates, Porta Soprana, once marked the main entrance to medieval Genoa. Built in the 12th century, they were part of the old defensive walls, and they stood through sieges, trade booms and revolutions. The twin towers are classical Romanesque, solid stone, narrow windows and just enough height to keep watch over everything coming in or out. just a few steps away from the busy streets, the Chiostro di Andrea feels hidden. These peaceful cloisters once belonged to a medieval monastery, and now they sit quietly beside the city gates. Next we walk on to Casa di Colombo, Christopher Columbus house. Now this is a small, reconstructed medieval building where they believe Christopher Columbus spent his early years. Now this is only a small stone house, but for an entry of only €5, I say, why not do it if you're interested in that sort of seafaring stuff? It's tucked away just beside the city's gates. It's surprisingly modest for such a big name, but maybe that's fitting. He didn't just start famous, he sailed into it. Galleria Giuseppe Mazzini is a 19th century shopping arcade built to connect the Opera House with the rest of the city. Glass ceiling, marble floors, classic arcade style. Today it's a quiet spot to stroll through, right in the middle of it all. Spianata Castelletto is the next stop on my list and yours. This is a scenic panoramic terrace which I'm told gives us the best vistas of Genoa. Apparently unbelievable. Let's find out for ourselves. This trek is not for the faint of heart. I'm out of breath. It's a lot of uphill walking. Now there is an elevator that takes you all the way from the bottom to the top of the lookout, and I'm planning on catching that on the way back down. I'm just starting to realise now how ridiculous that idea was. I really did get it around the wrong way. From up here, the whole city just opens up. Rooftops packed tight, church domes popping up between them, and the port stretching out toward the sea. It's a mix of stone, sea and sky. Old Genoa in full view, laid and alive. It's the kind of place that you don't rush. You just sit back, relax and look. And now for the elevator down. Now that walk and those views has built up an appetite in me. So I'm heading back into town and I'm going to find something to eat. On the walk down, I'm just admiring the buildings. Just doing their thing. Tall, a little worn, a little shabby, kind of dramatic, but in the best way. It's that sort of, mix of old charm and I'm just still standing sort of look. It's really, really cool. Now, a nice lady on my walk earlier today told me that the pesto alla genovese is the most iconic dish of Genoa and something that I really must try. So I'm going to find it now and let's give it a go. Now I have to stop because I am starving. So I'm going to grab something to eat. Grazie. Buon appetito. Thank you. Let's try this. Really good. Now I'm not sure that my overwhelming reaction to that pasta sold it to you, but honestly, it was delicious. So if you get a chance, give it a go. And now it's time for another climb.
Okay, I don't suggest trying to climb all these stairs after just eating a bowl of pasta. It's hard work. Next stop, Albertis Castle, a lesser known historical site here in Genoa. Though not as popular as the city's other historic landmarks, it offers a glimpse into Genoa's defensive past.
Approaching Albertis Castle, the sounds of the city fade out behind you, and then there's the tunnel, arched stoned, and the echo of the wind gushing through, and just enough mystery to make you wonder what kind of stories wait for us on the other side. To the left, the whole city stretches out below us. The harbour, ships slipping in and out, and to the right, Albertis Castle rises out of the hillside like it's been keeping watch for centuries. It's pretty dramatic. Today, Albertis Castle houses a museum of world cultures. It was built by Captain Enrique Alberto de Albertis, a sailor, explorer and collector who spent decades travelling the world. Inside, you'll find artefacts from his journeys across Africa, Asia and the Americas. From the balcony, the view is classic Genoa. Ships in the harbour, the old port. Now heading back inside and out of the wind, we head into the Turkish lounge, a particular room that embodies the charm of the exotic for the late 19th century.
Tell you what, it's getting windy. I had to stop and have a hot coffee.
Leaving Albertis Castle now and back out into the wind, winding back through Genoa's layers. It's quieter here, just the sound of footsteps and a few mopeds. Next stop, Villa del Principe, once home to one of Genoa's most powerful families. Villa del Principe was the home of Admiral Andrea Doria, one of the most influential figures in Genoa's history. Now, there's no filming permitted in here, but I am allowed to take photos, so please enjoy the slideshow. Now, this villa was built to impress, and honestly, it still does. It's unbelievable in here. From the grand frescoes to the formal gardens, everything here was designed to reflect power and prestige, with a very Renaissance sense of style. If you get the chance, definitely visit it. It's definitely worth checking out.
Our last stop for today is going to be the old port, Porto Antico. It's cold and my legs are sore, so we're going to call it quits after that.
Now, there's plenty to see down at the old port. One of the things I would have loved to have checked out is the Maritime Museum, but I'm out of time. There is also the aquarium, which is one of the largest aquariums in Europe, if that's your thing. Another attraction is Bigo Panoramic Lift, which is a scenic elevator which offers 360-degree views over the port and the city skyline.
And I hear from the end of this pier, if we can get there, there's a fantastic view back over the harbour.
But no such luck, guys. Unfortunately, the pier is closed off. There's renovations going on. But the view, well, it's still fairly epic. And this little fella here looks like it sailed straight out of a pirate movie, and that's because it did. Galleria Neptune was built for the 1986 Roman Polanski film Pirates and is permanently moored here at the Old Port. Well, that brings our day of exploring the amazing Genoa to a close. We've packed a lot into the day and covered a lot of kilometres by foot. Now, if walking's not your thing, there's hop-on, hop-off buses that are available. Well, that was Genoa. Genoa is fantastic. I love it. You do need to spend more than a day here exploring. There's so much more to see than what we've seen today. There's a beautiful sea walk, which I would have loved to have done, but it was cold today and just wasn't the right weather for it. And we didn't have the time. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've been to Genoa and the attractions you think that people should check out in the comments. Keep exploring and keep adventuring. And remember, your next destination is only a dino away. See you guys.